Brian, this is the quietest I've ever been on a podcast because I've just been literally enchanted by what you're saying. Like, I feel like this, I wasn't even on a podcast. I feel like I was in a classroom learning about stuff.
All right, traders, welcome back to another episode of the Real Life Trading Pivot Podcast. Back again with my co-host, Dean Bradshaw. And we got a very special guest with us today. Very, very interesting friend of ours. We got Brian McAboy, and he is from Inside Out Trading. So I want to welcome you to the Pivot Podcast. And if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me today. Anytime we can chat with fellow traders and those of us who are trying to help all the other traders out there because good help can be kind of scarce. There's more bad information than good, it seems. So anyway, just a quick intro to myself. I started trading a little over 20 years ago, and it's funny because I like a lot of people. I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but Ken Roberts was a guy who had a book that he sold via direct mail back in the 90s. Got tons of people hooked on trading. And it was hilarious because, his book was like the greatest business in the world. And he talks about, futures trading. And so he got me and a whole pile of people really interested in it. But of course, it's a book, and to learn from a book, and especially back then, because this was before, online trading. This was back in the day when you still called up a broker to place your trade. And my early days as a trader were, needless to say, full of lessons. But I did eventually get it figured out because one thing, I was really lucky. My life before trading, I was a quality manager in a manufacturing facility. We made plastic bottles, like these, like for Coke, Gatorade, Pepsi, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And what was my saving grace after I blew out my account and lost almost $50,000? Took a break, and when I came back to trading, it's like, well, I can't just keep doing it the way I've been doing it. I got to serious up about it, and it's like, wait a minute. Quality assurance is all about consistency. I mean, that's like the foundation of quality assurance, which has been proven to be a great moneymaker. I mean, a great business practice around the world for decades. So it's like, all right, and I was good at it at work. And it's like, okay, how can I apply it to my trading? And once I started applying the quality stuff to my trading, it's like everything just smoothed right out. And it got consistent, and I got comfortable, and I was relaxed, and it wasn't the emotional roller coaster anymore. And it's cool because what I found with a lot of traders that are struggling, because just like a lot of others, I thought it was me. There's got to be something wrong with me because it's like trading's simple enough. I get it. But what can be so hard about this? And so, and most traders I found are like above average. Like intelligence-wise, success-wise, just the whole population of traders tends to be above average. And so it's ridiculous that everybody's struggling and feeling like losers and beating themselves up, because it's like, yeah, it looks so easy. Why do I suck at it? There's got to be something wrong with me that I'm not aware of. I got some deep mommy-daddy issues or something. Like, no. What I've found is, here's the cool thing. That's like, if you take a person of decent, reasonable intelligence, and you throw them into a challenging job without any training or prior experience, they're likely to struggle and probably not get good results. And it's going to be stressful and almost impossible for it not to be an emotional experience. But if you take that person and you give them the training for the job on all the skills that they need, and they're actually ready, when you put them in the job, they're going to be okay. They'll just go do their thing. And with traders, it's no different. The problem is most of us have jumped into this, and it's a job that does require skill. And if you don't have the skills, it's going to be rough. You're probably not going to do real well. It's going to be stressful and a very emotional experience. And so what I found is most traders, because I had a lot of people coming to me, for help with the psychology of trading, and it didn't take long to figure it out. It's like, no, you don't have any psychological issues. You have lack of training issues. You're trying to do a job nobody showed you really how to do. That's why it's rough, because this is not a job that lends itself to just being figured out. So
yeah,
that's what I love about what you guys do. Because you're helping people, and it's like these are the skills of trading, and this is how you get good at it, not just, hey, here's another system.
Yeah.
Well, I understand. I understand the kind of the discipline or following the rules of definitely getting the training that you need. What would you define in terms of the trader mindset and how it applies to trading? What would you define quality is? What are some of the things that you would look for that you would define as a quality?
Well, as far as like traits,
Yes. I would say what would be some of those traits, I guess, that you would classify under for what you would look for as like, well, this is something that somebody has to have to be a successful trader or work on.
Well, if I were to sum it up like in like one sentence, if you can have a business mindset about it, and I know it might sound kind of cliche, but it really is appropriate. Because if for anybody who's only, they've only been an employee their entire life, they don't know what it's like starting and running a business. Yeah. When you actually start and run your own business, you learn to have patience, you learn to look ahead, you learn to plan and run the numbers on things, which a lot of traders never do. You learn to set goals and some specific objectives and milestones, and you approach it from the understanding that, hey, this is something that I maybe don't necessarily know how to do. So there are certain things I need to learn besides just the thing of the business. You guys ever heard of the book, The E-Myth Revisited?
I have not.
It was written, I guess, probably about 20 years ago by this guy, Michael Gerber. It's kind of a famous book in the business world, especially in the accounting world. Matter of fact, there are a couple of accounting firms that based their company on that book. Wow. But what's cool about it is he talks about, the main, like the subtitle of the book is, why most small businesses fail and what to do about it. And he talks about like how the E-Myth developed back in the 90s because there was so much corporate consolidating going on and a lot of downsizing, a lot of people getting put out of jobs. And rather than go seek out another job, or because they couldn't find one, they tried starting their own businesses. And so at least here in the States, we kind of got the, image of, we're the entrepreneurial group. That's the E-Myth is that, right. We're just a bunch of, we have this entrepreneurial nature. And it's like, no, when most people were doing it because they lost their job. So the thing is, there were a lot of people that would say, well, I know how to do the thing of the business. Maybe the guy's an architect, for example, and he used to work at an architectural firm. Well, yeah, he could do the drawings and the layouts for whatever, for buildings. But as far as running an architectural business, that he didn't know. And so you had all these people that they kind of knew how to do a job within a business, and they just kind of thought that they could go start a business. And what the book is all about is here's kind of the normal life cycle when that's the case. You got somebody who can do the thing of the business, but they don't know how to run a business. Yeah. And what happens to them, and they kind of hit it, like he called it, that, like the adolescence of the growth. And that's where things get really hard and rough, and it either fails or you back up and say, no, I got to work on my business and not in it all the time, which that phrase you guys have heard of. He was one of the guys who kind of originated that whole concept, was working on the business and not just in it. But with the thing is with trading, like I said, if you can approach it from a business mindset, because it's not just the act of trading and sitting down to place trades every day. You actually do have to, plan it out and say, this is going to be a long-term, business it's an organized activity, because it's not long-term investing where it's just buy and hold. This is an activity. This is something you're engaged in every day. Yeah. If you're day trading, hundreds or thousands of times a year, you're going to be placing trades. So this is an ongoing activity. So you need to get it organized and have some structure and a plan to it. And that's where the whole business mindset comes into it. Plus, the other thing about business mindset is you learn patience. When you're starting a business, you understand it's not going to be next week, we're a fully mature business. There's going to be a developmental process to it. And so if you can learn that patience to, go through the learning curve, and, develop your skills, learn the lessons that you need to learn, and also, track things. That's really what I've found makes the biggest difference, is if you can just kind of approach the whole matter with a little bit of a different mindset, instead of like an opportunity seeker where it's like, cool, I just bought a system. Next week I'm set for life. Everybody's like, yeah. And the system sellers just drive me nuts, because, they'll sit there and, they'll say, they'll have one chart and it shows the entire trade played out, and be like, look, we entered here and we got out here, and look at all this money we made. You can do it too.
Yeah.
No, it's not that easy because it's a different chart every day.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that, because I think we've had an episode on it before, Dan and I, but I truly believe when we're doing our coaching sessions, entrepreneurs I think are the best people for trading, because they learn failure and they learn to accept failure, learn from failure, and then go back at it again. And I think that's the type of mentality that that you need in trading, because there's a big thing like only 1% succeed, 99% fail, but you only fail when you stop. And I think that's like business, right? So I do agree with that point.
Well, the other part of it is, you have to have the patience to, allow things to develop and mature, whether it's, the business or yourself or the processes and learning skills and all that kind of stuff. Well, the flip side of it is, and again, this is where the business aspect comes into it, because a lot of people, they don't realize, it's like, if you decide to become a trader, before you even become a trader, you're actually, you're somebody with some money and you're wanting to put it into something to make money. You want money to work for you actively, not just, the 2% you get at a savings account or a CD. So, you're a business investor. And a lot of people, they've never invested in a business before. They just kind of had the buy and hold or the 401k and that kind of stuff, mutual funds. And so, you've got the role of the business investor. And then once you say, all right, well, I'm going to put my money somewhere, how did I wind up choosing trading? Because if you think about it, if you got a little bit of capital, there's literally 1,000 different things you could do as far as, starting up a business or, actively putting your money to work. You could start a jillion different small businesses. Trading is just one of them. So it's like, how did you even choose trading? Did you ever sit back and say, with this money, these are the objectives that I want to get with this money, regardless of what I choose to do with it? That's one of the first exercises I love going through with people. Yeah, because I know when I finally got into a position to trade and open an account, all of a sudden I'm getting calls from everybody and their brother. Everything from oil fields to making movies to all kinds of crazy things to invest in. And so it's like you got to step back and say, well, okay, what are going to be my criteria for filtering through all these opportunities here? Because they all sound great, of course. And sound like great money makers. So it's like, let's develop your list of criteria. It's like, what things would you be open to, and what it's just a plain, it sounds like a great idea, but not what I want to do. Thanks. And you can get off the phone in 30 seconds instead of thinking about it and then stressing over it. Should I do it? Or should I do it? For the next week, or actually getting sucked into this stuff. Yeah. But the thing is, you got to have patience to let things develop. You also have to have the patience to know when things aren't working and it's time to stop and reassess your plan. That's huge, because I see so many people. I actually ran a survey of my clients years ago, and just to see when they came to me how long they had been trading already and where they rated their happiness or their satisfaction with their trading. And the average was 4.6 years. Was how long that they'd already been trading before they came to me. And almost 90% of them were not happy with their trading. Some of them were okay with it. It was sufferable. Others were struggling. But only just over 10% said that they were actually happy with the way things were going.
That's insane, because you wouldn't do something for 4 years, would you, that you're not happy with and continue to do that? So I wonder why that happens with a trading mindset. Do you think it's like you're sort of accepting that you're failing a little bit, so you don't really want to reach out for help? It's like, because that's admitting that you need help. And like as humans, we don't like to really admit that we need help at times. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what you think about that.
No, that's what you just said is extremely true. And I don't know if you've heard of it before, but the notion that a person might be in an uncomfortable situation and they're not going to change until the pain of where they're at exceeds the pain of change.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. There's going to be some discomfort stepping into the unknown, changing from what's familiar. And with traders, they just kind of get, stuck coasting and not making any money. Maybe they're not getting killed. But I've had people come to me literally trading for 10, 12, 14 years without ever having a profitable year. And it's the same simple routine that they've been wrestling with for years. That's why with a lot of people, one of the first things I'll tell them to do, it's like, if you're losing money, stop. Just stop trading with real money. Give yourself a rest. Break the pattern. Because it's something you've gotten used to. You've established, a normal for yourself, and it sucks, but it's not bad enough to push you to do anything about it. So
I wonder if there's a little bit of human nature in that too, because I don't know if that just applies to the trading world. I mean, they've done surveys that says people that have full-time jobs and workplaces, most of them are sitting there unhappy at their jobs, but they won't do anything or change. And I wonder if that is that element of the realm of the unknown, where you step out of that comfort zone. And I think that same mindset has kept a lot of people from trying to get into the markets, from trying to trade. But I wonder if that kind of bleeds over into, well, I didn't make money this year, but next year's the one. Maybe I'll just kind of stick to what I'm doing situation. I don't know how much human nature that it would be.
Sure. Well, again, going back to the bad information that's out there, every time somebody, comes up with a new, just crack the code system that they're pimping out there, it gives everybody hope. Yep. And, they get on the webinar and it sounds great and they try it out and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But, it's like 30 days later, they're usually back to where they were. The same thing that they used to do. And so, but the just going through the cycle of, getting your hopes up and, not working out. Get your hopes up and it doesn't work out. And then after a while, it's like, I'm not even going to bother to get my hopes up anymore. I'll just kind of plod along and, like you said, just somehow magically it's going to turn around one day.
So let me ask you this, Brian. What would you classify as a good trader, and how long does it, on average, and I know it's arbitrary, but how long do you think it would take somebody to be what you would consider a good trader?
A good trader is somebody who's mature enough to understand that, it is a longer game. You do have to, live it day by day, but you kind of you learn to take each day in stride. You learn to, if you happen to have a loser, okay, great, it didn't work out, but it's not going to ruin my day, and I'm not going to, think I suck because this trade didn't work out, or maybe I screwed up. You learn to kind of just, take every day with a grain of salt, and winners included. One little trap that I see a lot of people get into, both in trading and elsewhere, is, when things, maybe, you hit kind of a hot streak and things are just going great. And then, you're thinking, oh yeah, it's just, I'm, kicking butt and taking names and, I've got it now and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, just statistically, it's going to happen from time to time. Just like statistically, you're going to hit periods where everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. And you have to learn to take all that stuff in stride. As far as what I would say, a good trader, actually, it's a good question. One of my favorite questions that I ran across a few years ago was kind of the same. And I started asking people, it's like, at what point would you consider yourself successful as a trader? And what I honestly expected at the time was the answer would be, well, when I'm consistently profitable. And what I found, though, really is the answer is when you can go to the markets and you know that you're okay. Regardless of what happens, you're okay. That really is when you've made it. Because I went through it when I was still kind of turning the corner, and a lot of other people, you may actually hit where you go a month or 2 months or 3 months and you're profitable, but you're still a basket case full of nerves, going to the market every day. That anxiety is still there. Yeah. You still haven't made it. You've made it when you can go to the markets and it's like, yeah, I'm good. No matter what happens, I'm okay. That's what you've made.
I like that.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's a good perspective to look at it that way, because even the question of when does somebody find themselves successful? I mean, success to each person is a lot different than what it might be to the next person. So I think just having the pure understanding of what you would actually define as success, because if there's a trader that doesn't know what success is to them, it's very hard to achieve or get to that spot. So I think for any trader to define what is the ultimate goal of what you're trying to get out of trading, or why you got into trading in the first place, if that is not there, it's hard to even look at a chart and understand why you're playing with green and red candles all day on your screen, and what is the point? So I think you have to have that kind of foundation and build upon that, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's cool that you bring that up, because it brings to mind one thing, and it sounds so insanely simple, but it can have such a huge impact on people, but with trading especially, from a psychological standpoint, of just plain setting your goals. When you get into trading, it's like, what am I actually trying to accomplish? Something specific, not just want to make some money. That's way too vague. But if you say, all right, I've got $50,000, I'm going to, that's what I want to put into trading. It's going to be my working capital with trading. And what I'm looking to make is, say, $2,500 a month. That's my financial objective with entering into trading. And that's why I've chosen trading, because that opportunity is there. If you never set any kind of a monetary goal, your brain is constant, and your whole thought process is, I just want to make some money. I just want to make some money. Anything that looks like it's going to make money is going to be a temptation to you. And you can have a good day, you can have a bad day, and you don't have a real decent gauge as far as, am I on track? Am I achieving my objective? Am I successful? But if you have, any kind of a goal, even if it's like, like I said, $2,500 a month, cool. You're winning or not. And if things are actually working out and you have some way to actually measure it. But if you have no goal, it's always vague. And that's how you can plod along for years and, think, and even if you have some good months in there, it's going to be like, I don't know. And so that by itself, just psychologically, like I said, putting some finite parameters on it, something tangible to let you know, is this working? Is it not? Am I doing what I need to do? Or what do I need to do? Do I need to back off my trading a little bit? Because I've been getting too aggressive just because I've been emotional, and because of wanting to make money, and so I'm placing way more trades than I need to. That's one I see a lot of times, and it's for no reason. But not for no reason. The no reason is because you haven't put those kind of parameters, so you know how to pace yourself.
Yeah, and that's
amazing how some just little things can have such a huge psychological impact for people. Another one of my favorite things to tell people is practice.
Yeah.
Actively, take time, not trading with real money, to go over in your sim account and just practice your method. The analogy that I love to use is like, if you guys play golf?
Yeah, I do. You've touched on the subject here, Brian. We'll go off subject if we get onto golf. I see where it's done.
The thing is, let's say you wanted to become, a competition golfer. You wanted to actually, be able to go enter tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't only sign up for tournaments and otherwise just leave your clubs in the garage.
Yeah.
If you're serious about doing well in the tournaments, you'd be over the driving range, working on your teeing off and making sure, you can drive it and get it in the middle of the fairway. You focus on your stance and your grip and your backswing and your posture and all that stuff. And then you spend time over on the par threes, working with your irons and getting on the green. You spend lots of time on the putting green, working on nothing but your putts. So you'd be spending a lot of time focused on honing your skills, so that when it comes tournament time, you've got the confidence that, you can play a course where it's 18 different holes, or maybe it's an entirely new course, but, it's different on every course, but you've got the skills with your clubs and you know them well enough in yourself to go play it well. Trading is the same way. You got so many traders, they never take time in the sim account. They think, because the brokers don't help here either. It's like, can open an account with us? Cool. Fund it. Here, we'll give you a sim account. There's $50,000. Go play with it. Get used to our platform. It's like, no, that's not really what the sim account is for. The sim account is where you can go practice your method on their platform and get good with your method on their platform. That's what it's really for. And to practice, it is amazing what a difference just practicing work it does for your confidence and your execution and everything. Because trading's a skill-based occupation. And the more reps you can get in, the better you're going to get at it, the more settled down you're going to be. So, like I said, just like with golf, same thing, skill-based sport. So,
I'm going to make you think back for a little bit with your experience of coaching and kind of working with people. What was one time that stood out to you where you had a struggling student just have that aha moment, the light bulb went on that you were kind of noticing and helped them with their stride? And what was What was kind of that aha moment for that trader? If you could think back, I know it's.
Oh no, I remember it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was 12, 13 years ago. I went through a little spell where it seemed like a lot of people were all struggling with hesitation. And it was like the theme of this period of about 6 months. And so I'm working with everybody, and we're dealing with primarily, we're approaching the matter assuming it's a psychological issue. And this one guy, Bill, talking with him one day, had gone through and exhausted everything either of us could think of. Self-sabotage, mom and daddy issues, beliefs, money relationship, all the different kinds of stuff. And it's like, no, this guy's solid. I mean, outside of trading, the guy was extremely successful, making about $400,000 a year, and just had a whole. His whole resume was just amazing. Trading, couldn't handle it, just losing money left and right. And so, like I said, we explored a whole bunch of different stuff, and I don't even remember how it came to me, but I'm just like, well, just walk me through your system. And so he starts explaining it to me, and when I first asked him, he's like, kind of excited, to be able to share that. But then it didn't take long. We got to a point where he was having difficulty explaining it, and he felt really uncomfortable. And what we found was, in going through his system, was that there were several points where it was very vague or unclear, or had very subjective terms, or there were just plain issues with executing it itself. And I'm like, that was like a huge, light bulb for me and him. It's like, yeah, he was thinking that, he had a solid system, but he didn't. He had a good strategy. The premise that it was based on was sound, as far as, how he's going to get in and out of the markets. But as far as the system, and this is really what brought it home for me with the quality stuff, was you're trying to work with a system that's a lousy system. Because the big difference, and this is a huge mistake lots of people make, and again, the purveyors of, strategies and stuff out there, they'll sit there and say, yeah, just try this strategy and you'll get those consistent profits. And it's like, no, a strategy and a system are not the same thing. A strategy is how you're going to get in and out of the market, generally speaking, whether it's zigzag patterns, crossing MAs or whatever. Your system is how you're going to do that 1,000 times consistently. Completely different beasts, because there are tons of great strategies out there. I mean, how long's trading been going on? Decades, right? And there are a lot of really smart people who've come up with some really excellent strategies that work. But how you systemize them makes all the difference in the world. If you can't systemize it, approach it from the standing of a process and make it a repeatable process, doesn't matter if it's a good strategy, you're not going to get consistent output out of it. And so that was a huge aha for me. And that's where, and after that, I really started focusing on that a lot with coaching traders on, how to be a trader. I mean, that's the main thing I've focused on from day one. I mean, there's the psychological aspect of things, but really it's like, how do you be a trader? Because then that kind of encompasses the mindset and the skill set and everything else. And that's really like, the training that nobody gets when you get into this business. So, but yeah, the biggest aha was a strategy does not equal a system. And that's one thing I try to stress to everybody. Just because you got a good idea doesn't mean it's a good system.
Yeah, I kind of love it. I think that's a good exercise for every listener of the Pivot Podcast. Attempt to explain your system to a stranger. Just if you could articulate what in the world you're trying to do, what your system is. I think that's because I think that challenge will probably be failed by a lot of people because they're not. It's not something that they think about. Like, okay, I got the strategy, and how do I, like you said, implement it 1,000 times? How am I able to repeat the process? I love that.
Can I just say, Brian, this is the quietest I've ever been on a podcast because I've just been literally enchanted by what you're saying. Like, I feel like this. I wasn't even on a podcast. I feel like I was in a classroom learning about stuff. I'm invested. This is brilliant. But yeah, so I'm still here, listeners. I couldn't speak. Everything was just being said. It was brilliant. Yeah. Wow. Sorry, I had to chime in with that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, being in a space just where we have the opportunity to help other traders, I'm thrilled to live in the day and age that we do with the technology that we do, like this kind of stuff. Because I remember what it was like trying to learn out of a book, and it's like being able to, get on podcasts or, watch videos and have, the platforms that we do nowadays, that's like so much more favorable circumstances for everybody that wants to get into trading than it used to be. So I think it's just absolutely cool. And the fact that you guys are doing what you're doing is excellent. I could tell just in your tone and your whole attitude, it's like, yeah, you're here. You got the right heart for doing this, which is excellent. So.
Appreciate that. And we do appreciate you coming on to the Pivot Podcast. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we got Brian McAboy, and the company is Inside Out Trading. We'll post the links below here anywhere that you're streaming, so you guys can check that out as well. Any last final words, Brian? Anything else you want to leave the traders with?
Well, the main thing I would say is really for everybody to not so much focus on the hard side of trading as in, the strategies and the technical stuff. I mean, that's a necessary part of it, but make sure that you're focusing on developing yourself as a trader. Because again, this is a game of knowledge and understanding and perspectives and skills, because it's a mental activity, what we're doing. So as you grow and develop and learn more, on a skill-based perspective, it's only going to serve you well, and the game will get easier. That, and focus on consistency first. That's the other big lesson I really try to preach to everybody. If you focus on consistency first before making money, and you can get the consistency part down, the making money part gets easy. But if all you're focused on is, I'll find a profitable system and then I'll figure out how to get consistent, that's the trap that everybody falls into. So consistency first. So.
Love it. Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, Brian. Dean, always a pleasure co-hosting with you. And you guys listening each and every week. We do love you and appreciate you guys. And we'll catch you guys on the very next episode next week. Take it easy, guys.